Hey guys, when I decided to come back and start making more content, it was because I wanted to talk about things that I didn't think were being talked about. I wanted to put my opinion out there, and it's going to be contrary to a lot of what MMA YouTube has to say. And the first thing I wanted to talk about, and it's going to be kind of controversial, and a lot of people are going to not like it, but I think it's a good thing that the BMF title is on the line in the main event at UFC 291. Let's talk a little bit about what the BMF title is and how we got to where we are today. So, in order to understand the origins of the BMF title, I think you got to go even further back and talk about Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez came in 2015 to the UFC, came from Bellator. He was a high-touted veteran. A lot of people called him the Uncrowned King. That was like his nickname. Eddie Alvarez was someone everyone wanted to see and thought was going to be a dominant champion. They thought that he was the guy that was truly going to be the best lightweight. He stumbled when he first came in against Donald Cerrone, but then he reeled off a couple wins, wins the title against Rafael Dos Anjos, and everyone's like, yeah, this is where he's supposed to be. He goes on to face Conor McGregor, and let's face it, he gets embarrassed. It was an embarrassing performance. So his very next fight, he fights Dustin Poirier, and that fight ends in a no contest. He performed an illegal knee. It was a very frustrating fight for Eddie Alvarez. So he was trying to figure out, okay, like how do I get my career back on the straight? And he signed up to fight Justin Gaethje. Gaethje was coming from the World Series of Fighting, where he was undefeated. He fought guys like Melvin Guillard and Nick Newell, but there really wasn't much talent in World Series of Fighting that people knew of. That not a whole lot of those guys came over to the UFC. So Justin Gaethje's first fight was against Michael Johnson. That was a war. It was back and forth in the first round, and then in the second round, Justin Gaethje knocks out Michael Johnson. So it was a big fight. People expected a high action pack fight between him and Eddie. And Eddie said it before the fight. He goes, "Hey, we're going to do this for the most violent man in the UFC. This is for the violence title." This is the first time that I can remember anyone coming up with an imaginary title. And I go back all the way to like 2005. That's how long I've been watching them. Never heard someone say like an imaginary title. And this one made sense. It was like two guys who were very physical, and it was going to be a brawl. So it was exciting. Eddie Alvarez ends up winning. He stops Justin Gaethje. He's a violence champion. It ends right there. It's a 1-of-1. They never defend it and have another fight that they call for the violence champion or the most violent athlete in the UFC. And that was that. Cut to 2019. Nate Diaz comes back after a hiatus. Nate Diaz was fought Conor McGregor to a controversial split decision loss. A lot of people thought he won that fight. He took like 3 years off. He comes back. 2019, fights Anthony Pettis. Leading up into that fight, he was saying that he only wanted to fight certain guys. He only wanted to fight veterans of the game that he thought were real fighters. He didn't want to fight. He made it kind of clear that he didn't want to fight any of the up and comers. He considered himself the best in the game, so he called himself the baddest motherfucker. So after he beats Anthony Pettis, that's what he says on the mic. He says, "Hey, I defended my belt tonight against Anthony Pettis. Now I'm going to call out the next guy. Jorge Masvidal is doing something over here. That's going to be a big fight." At the time, Jorge Masvidal was coming off the win over Ben Askren, where he came off the knee. Before that, he had knocked off Darren Till. So Jorge Masvidal was, his stock was all the way up. He was a longtime veteran. He was a 50-50 fighter before that. People considered him a journeyman, basically. All of a sudden, he had this big fight with Nate Diaz. They were going to headline MSG. Remember, Nate Diaz is the one who said, "Hey, we're going to fight for my title of the baddest motherfucker." And then Dana White one day comes out and goes, "Oh yeah, we came up with this BMF title and we're going to put it on the line." And he made a belt, and it was like a different color and a different look than the regular belt, but it was an actual belt. And he put it on the line, and he was going to bring The Rock, and there was all this pomp and circumstance, and it was a big deal, and it was pretty neat. Really, what I think the reason they made this belt is they weren't used to doing UFC pay-per-views without having a belt. They always wanted to have a belt on the line. I don't think it's like a necessary thing, but I think they feel like if there's a belt on the line that it makes the pay-per-view better. And in this case, I don't think they wanted a random title holder to make money off a Nate Diaz fight. I think Nate Diaz generates a lot of views. They don't really tell how many buys they do. Everything's speculation. But let's say Nate Diaz versus Masvidal sold 1 million pay-per-views. They didn't want to give a random middleweight champion or a random, let's say, 135 bantamweight champion that pay-per-view points off of that win or off of that fight. So they did it as its own headline. They made the title. Okay. Nate Diaz loses, Masvidal wins. He's a BMF champ. He never defends. He says it at the press conference. It's a 1-of-1. Multiple fighters claim that they wanted to take that fight, that they wanted that title on the line. He fought Kamaru Usman. Usman beat him and says, hey, I'm the new BMF champ. Masvidal says, nope, it wasn't on the line, and you just gave me, foot stomps. That's not how you become the BMF champ. 1 year later, he fights him again, loses again. Still says, nope, it wasn't on the line. He loses Colby Covington. I remember Colby Covington said he wanted part of that title. And it was never really defended. It was kind of considered a one-off thing. Cut to Masvidal retiring this year. After his latest loss, he retired. To Gilbert Burns, he retires. Now they set up this fight. And it's Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. They're headlining the event. No titles on the line. I kind of understand that Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier is probably close to the same idea. Let's just say they bring in like 850, 900,000 pay-per-view buys. They don't want to give Juliana Pena and Rocky Pennington that pay-per-view points. They don't want to give a random champion those pay-per-view points. There's no other title that's on the line. I don't think they wanted to make the I don't think they wanted to make the light heavyweight title, even though it's vacant. They didn't want to make that a thing because I don't think they want to give away those pay-per-view points. I think it's a lot of money. I think that's the real reason why there's no vacant light heavyweight title fight. I don't think it has anything to do with who's coming off a loss and what's their ranking and anything like that. I don't think they wanted to give away any pay-per-view points to this UFC fight. I don't know what Justin and Dustin get, but I'm pretty sure that if there's no belt on the line, actual belt, they don't get pay-per-view points. But what they do get is the BMF title. And if you can think about what Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz were, veterans of the game, fan favorites, they were beloved. That's what Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are. Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, they've only lost to the very, very best. They've only lost to Oliveira, Khabib. I know they have losses to other guys earlier in their careers, but lately they've beaten everybody but the very, very best. They've both been in the game for a long time. Dustin Poirier has a crazy record of fights that he's won. Just a level of competition both these guys have had. It's very elite. This is a big fight. It deserves some kind of pomp and circumstance. It deserves it. And you know what? The fighters want it. Justin Gaethje has come out and said, hey, that belt's prestigious, and he wants to be known as the baddest motherfucker. I'm sure that Dustin Poirier feels the same way. Why, as an MMA community, is it our job then to shit on him? I don't understand that. I don't understand why these MMA YouTubers like to cry about stuff like, oh, I can't believe this belt is on the line. This ruins the pay-per-view. You know what? Then watch something else that night. Fucking watch previews for college football. Get your fantasy football lineup signed up. But you're not. You're going to watch the fight. Just enjoy it. Enjoy what it is. It doesn't change your life one bit. It's just going to be a fun and entertaining thing. The fighters who are involved, the fighters who work their ass off and they're about to go get their whole lives changed from the beating they're each about to take from each other, they want the belt on the line. That should be all you need. That's all you need to know is that they want the belt on the line. So just enjoy it. You don't got to shit on everything. I'm sorry that Christmas was ruined for you. Someone told you at 3 years old that there was no Santa Claus and you've never been the same. You know, they told you the tooth fairy wasn't real. I don't know. You guys just want to crap on everything that's fun in the UFC today. If that makes you happy, hey, more power to you. That's not what my channel is going to be about. I look forward to the fight.